In 1993, Michael Jackson was cementing his legacy as the king of pop, embarking on the Dangerous Tour. Michael was at a high in his career, selling millions of records, being honored by the Grammy Academy, as well as letting the world into his personal life with an unprecedented interview with Oprah Winfrey that is to this day the most watched interview in television history. Michael was at what seemed to be a high in his life after going on tour for his multi-platinum album Dangerous, becoming his fourth album to sell over 15 million records by 1993. By the end of the summer, Michael's personal life will once again be the talk of the world. But unlike the interview with Oprah, Michael would not invite the press in. Like so many times in his life, they entered by force. In August of 1993, while Michael was deep into the third leg of his Dangerous tour, Evan Chandler, the father of Jordan Chandler, approached Michael and his team demanding $20 million, claiming Michael had molested Jordan numerous times over multiple months. Michael countered the offer with $1 million, only for Chandler to lower his request to $15 million. Of course, since Michael always said he was innocent, he declined and only offered $350,000, which Evan declined. After this, the Chandler family would turn Michael's so-created Fantasyland upside down. In September of 1993, Evan Chandler filed a lawsuit against Michael Jackson on behalf of his 13-year-old son Jordan. That's right, not a criminal investigation, but a civil lawsuit. This was the third attempt in under a month by Chandler to get so-called justice, demanding money, not jail time, every time. This is definitely suspicious to me, as you would think a father would want to see his child hurt or at least in prison. Instead, they of course asked for money. Michael and his team thought it was suspicious too, because in November of 1993, they asked the court to postpone the civil trial until the criminal case concluded, which makes perfect sense to me and was how the OJ case was settled. OJ went on trial, and even though he was found not guilty, he was later found guilty in civil court. The judge didn't agree somehow, and Jackson's request was denied.
Dude!
The trial was set for March 21st, 1994. The trial would never happen, as on January 25th, 1994, Michael was settled out of court with the Chandler family for $23 million. Because of this, the civil trial was dropped and Jordan did not participate in the criminal investigation. No charges were ever filed against Michael Jackson for this case. Even though no charges were filed against Michael and no proof was ever presented, many people in the public turned on Michael, including the entire media. For the rest of his life, the media in Hollywood would mock Jackson, using his allegations as a shield to hide their ignorant, racist, clout-chasing shtick. While no charges were ever filed, a criminal investigation against Michael did take place. Multiple children were interviewed under oath by the Santa Barbara Police Department. Michael had never tried to do anything sexual, according to witnesses, including Wade Robson. Remember that name. Since there was no trial and the public back and forth only went on from August to January, this is the case we know the least about and is the hardest to disprove. We don't even know the details of what allegedly happened like we do other cases, so it's hard to dissect. One thing we can dissect is the lives of Evan Chandler and his son Jordan. The first red flag to me is that Evan seemed to only be concerned in somehow gaining financially from his son's alleged abuse, instead of wanting to see the guy dead or in jail like Michael's sister Janet said. Not only did Evan put a price tag on his son's abuse, he was willing to negotiate the price down like he was buying a new car. Not only did he try to go after Michael for his money, he was on tape saying he's going to make sure Michael never sold another record.
Humiliated beyond belief. He will not believe it. He will not believe it can happen. Beyond his worst nightmares. Sell one more record.
This attorney I found, I can't find
once I make that phone call, this guy is just going to destroy everybody in sight. Any devious, nasty, cruel way that he can do it. And I've given him full authority to do that. It'll be a massacre if I don't get what I want. If I go through with this, I win big time. I will get everything I want, and they will be destroyed forever. They will be destroyed. June is going to lose Jordy. She will have no right to ever see him again.
Yeah.
That's a fact, Dave. That's what's
Does that help?
Michael's career will be over.
Does that help Jordy?
Michael's career will be over.
And does that help Jordy?
That's irrelevant to me.
To me, this doesn't sound like a man trying to get justice for his son. The next year after the settlement, Jordan sought legal emancipation from his parents, as well as not speaking to his father during his adult life. Evan Chandler committed suicide just 5 months after Michael passed away. That sounds like a guilty conscience to me. May he rot in garbage. This video is about disproving the disgusting allegations against Michael. I also want to take a second to see how Michael reacted to the allegations and how they affected him in his career. In 1992, Michael reconnected with Lisa Marie Presley, who would eventually become his wife the same year Michael settled the allegations. The daughter of the late Elvis would be a huge part of Michael's life during this rough time. Lisa Marie and Michael fell in love during this time, with Lisa Marie saying in her 2003 book, "I believe he didn't do anything wrong, and he was wrongly accused, and yes, I started to fall for him." Seeing Michael at was certainly his lowest point up to 1993, Lisa saw Michael's health failing as he was falling into an addiction to pain medication. Lisa insisted to Michael that he just settle because she didn't think a long public trial would be good for Michael's health. I agree. 5 months after the settlement, Lisa and Michael got married, and she would be at his side for the remainder of their marriage, and always saying she believed he was innocent, even after his death. A lot of moonwalkers don't like Lisa Marie, but I think she is misunderstood. Michael was her husband, and they had issues, and it was not our right to judge. She always stood beside him and proclaimed his innocence, and I respect her for that. But unfortunately, their marriage did not last, with Lisa Marie filing for divorce in December of 1995. Michael released his first piece of new music since 1991's Dangerous, and his first since the allegations in 1995 with History, Past, Present, and Future, Book 1. History is Michael's most personal album. He really opened up in songs like Childhood, This Time Around, DS, Stranger in Moscow, and more. Michael decided to make a personal album after his sister Janet suggested it. Unlike her brother, Janet had a history of being more open in her music. History also saw the superstar siblings work together for the first time officially with Scream. History was a successful album, launching an even more successful world tour in 1996 and 1997. Even though the album had a #1 single and a top 5 single in the US, as well as selling 10 million albums worldwide in just 1 year, Michael saw a clear decline in album sales. While it took History a full year to sell 10 million records, Dangerous managed to sell the same amount in just 3 months. Bad sold 7 million copies in its first week and 18 million copies in its first year. I hate comparing to Thriller, but Thriller sold 21 million copies in its first year. In 2001, Michael released what would be his least successful album in his career, Invincible. I actually think by 2001, a lot of the backlash from the allegations had died down, and Michael was being celebrated as the king of pop, rightfully so. I think the so-called failure of the Invincible album was strictly due to the lack of promotion from Sony. That is a video for another day, but a few reasons why I think that is true is Invincible sold at a similar rate to History in its early weeks of the album. The only promoted song on the album, You Rock My World, became a top 10 hit in the US, and Michael's 30th anniversary celebration was watched by 30 million viewers in the US alone just a month before the album was released. In 1996, Michael Jackson married Debbie Rowe after she agreed to be the surrogate mother to his children. They had 2 children together, Michael Joseph Jackson Jr., known as Prince, in 1997, and Paris Catherine Jackson in 1998. Michael also had his third child, Prince Michael Jackson II, formerly known as Blanket, now known as BG, in 2002 to an unknown surrogate mother. This concludes part 1 of this multi-part series defending Michael Jackson against these disgusting allegations. This is Behind the Mask, the Michael Jackson story, and this is part 2 of the MJ is Innocent series, a series where we cover the allegations made against Michael Jackson and try to disprove them. In 2002, Michael decided to take down the gates of his fantasy land when he opened up Neverland to journalist Martin Bashir and TV crew. The goal of the documentary was for Michael to open up to the public like he has never done before in an attempt to become more relatable and sympathetic. This was Michael's goal, but Bashir had other plans in mind. Agreeing to film Leaving Neverland with Bashir would become one of the biggest regrets of Michael's life. Bashir started the early months very respectful to Michael and his legacy, while also getting some of Michael's deepest thoughts. If the documentary would have stayed on this path, I think it would have done what Michael set out to do. Instead, Bashir turned his project into a hit piece designed to further damage Michael's legacy in the eyes of the public, and unfortunately, his plan was successful. In the second half of the documentary, majority of the broadcast was focused on Michael's relationship with children. During this portion, we are introduced to members of the Arvizo family, including Gavin Arvizo and his mother. Gavin met Michael in 2000 when he was battling cancer. According to Gavin's sister, the family were told Gavin wouldn't survive the disease. After Michael heard about Gavin's situation, Michael decided to help the same way he has helped other sick children in the past. Because of Michael's help and doctor's treatment, Gavin was able to make a full recovery and is still cancer-free to this day. According to Gavin, after his battle with cancer, he was only invited back to Neverland a handful of times before he lost contact with Michael. During the filming of Living with Michael Jackson, Michael decided it would be a good idea to show his relationship with Gavin and explain how he helped save the boy's life. Gavin and his family flew to Neverland after being invited by Michael and happily participating in filming. While being questioned by Bashir, Michael and Gavin explained their friendship with each other while Gavin was grasping Michael's hand with a big smile. Bashir, who had a new angle to his documentary, began questioning Michael on his relationship with children, questioning if he and Gavin had ever shared a bed together. Both Gavin and Michael said while they have slept in Michael's bedroom together with Gavin's other siblings, Michael always slept in a sleeping bag on the floor, letting the children take the bed. While Michael said he never slept in the bed with Gavin, he was quick to acknowledge that he had slept in the bed with many children, saying, "What's wrong with sharing your bed? I think sharing your bed is the most beautiful thing you can do." Living with Michael Jackson was released February 3rd, 2003 by ABC. Michael also released his own version on Fox, filmed with his own cameras called Take Two, the footage you weren't supposed to see. In this version of the documentary, we hear completely different views from Bashir compared to the ABC broadcast. In the original airing, we hear Bashir painting Neverland as a dark place, saying Neverland is a dangerous place for children. In Michael's version, you can clearly see and hear Bashir saying he thinks Michael is a great father and how wonderful he thinks it is that Michael invites underprivileged children to Neverland. In 2009, after Michael's death, Bashir said, "When I made the documentary, there was a small part of that which contained controversy concerning his relationship with young people. But the truth is, he was never convicted of any crime. I never saw any wrongdoing myself. While his lifestyle was unorthodox, I don't think it was criminal." A little too late, Bashir. Luckily, what goes around comes around. In 2020, it was revealed that Bashir had used fake statements to secure his interview with Princess Diana, the same interview that convinced Michael to use Bashir for the documentary. Bashir later resigned from the BBC, citing health concerns. The disgraced journalist currently does not have a job. Choosing Martin Bashir turned out to be one of the biggest mistakes of Michael's life. This documentary single-handedly started the most tumultuous time of Michael's entire life. In part 3, we covered the Arvizo investigation and trial.
Very innocent and beautiful relationship, which everyone has spun it out of control.
My first impression was that he's a very loving, caring, humble man. He took us under his wing when nobody else would. He didn't turn us away like all the people were doing. And he gave my brother the extra little spark he needed in his mind, because my brother was to the point where he couldn't even move. He couldn't even talk.
On November 20th, 2003, Michael Jackson turned himself into the police after being charged with multiple counts of sexual misconduct with the child after his home, Neverland, was raided by the Santa Barbara Police Department. This raid was the result of an investigation that began just weeks after the Living with Michael Jackson documentary was aired. Tom Sneddon, the same district attorney in charge of the 1993 investigation, began interviewing the Arvizo family in June of 2003. After multiple interviews from June to November, Gavin Arvizo told investigators that Michael had molested him multiple times between February 7, 2003 and March 10, 2003, which was later changed to February 21, 2003 to March 12, 2003. This timeline is very interesting to me, considering the original date given by Gavin is one day after the Living with Michael Jackson documentary was aired. Not only is the original date suspicious, but so is the updated timeline. According to Gavin, Michael began molesting him 7 days after the Santa Barbara Police Department opened an investigation into Michael. Multiple months after Gavin and Michael were interviewed together by Martin Bashir, and 3 years after Michael first invited the Arvizo family to Neverland. I don't know about you guys, but something isn't adding up. In April 2004, a grand jury served Michael with additional charges totaling 14. If convicted, Michael could face up to 18 years in prison. In this part of the video, I will go over the allegations in detail. As I will be discussing child molestation accusations, there will be a trigger warning for this part of the video. Gavin Arvizo originally claimed that as soon as he and his family arrived at Neverland on February 7th, Michael began molesting him. He later changed it to February 20th. He claimed Michael served him alcohol on multiple occasions. His siblings Star and Devlin Arvizo also testified to seeing Michael serve their brother alcohol. Gavin claimed that Michael would show him his porn collection and ejaculate him. Star testified saying he saw Michael rubbing his penis against Gavin's buttocks while Gavin was sleeping. The Arvizo family later claimed that Michael held them hostage at Neverland, forced them to participate in the clip that played at the beginning of this video.
Inside? And what did he do next?
He started masturbating me.
The trial People vs. Jackson began February 28, 2005 and was decided June 13th the same year. During the trial, Jackson's lead attorney Tom Mesereau would try and dismantle the allegations made against Michael. Both sides would call multiple witnesses to try to prove their sides. The prosecution's witnesses were the Arvizo family, Gavin, Star, Devlin, and Janet Arvizo. They also called to the stand staff at Neverland Ranch, Michael's ex-wife and mother of his 2 children, Debbie Rowe, and Martin Bashir himself. Bashir denied to answer any questions from Michael's side. Let me remind you what Bashir said about Michael in 2009.
There was a small part of that which contained a controversy concerning his relationship with other young people. But the truth is that he was never convicted of any crime. I never saw any wrongdoing myself. And whilst his lifestyle may have been a bit unorthodox, I don't believe it was criminal.
The prosecution's top witness was supposed to be the testimony of Michael's first accuser, Jordan Chandler, who would now be a 25-year-old adult. Instead of testifying for the prosecution, Jordan decided to flee the country. Instead, Time Sneddon convinced Jordan's mother, June Chandler, to testify, the same mother Jordan had emancipated himself from over a decade prior. The defense team called multiple witnesses to try and invalidate the prosecution's story. Tom Mesereau and the defense called multiple celebrities to testify that the Arvizo family had tried to scam them in the past. These celebrities included George Lopez, Jay Leno, and Chris Tucker. Chris Tucker, who had recently become friends with Michael, said he warned Michael about the Arvizo family. The Rush Hour star called the family cunning. Called Home Alone actor and longtime friend of Michael, Macaulay Culkin, to the stand. Macaulay testified that he had shared a bed over a dozen times between the ages of 9 and 14 with Michael, and nothing inappropriate had ever happened. The star witness for the defense was Wade Robeson. Wade was cross-examined by the prosecution and held firm that Michael never molested him. Again, remember that name for later. One of the defense's main argument was that Gavin initially told the prosecution that Jackson molested him before he publicly defended Michael, to later declare the abuse took place after the Arvizo family defended Michael in February 2003. The defense also outlined that even the prosecution acknowledged that Michael was not on the ranch with Gavin in February, saying Michael was with the family from March 2nd to March 5th and again from March 9th to March 12th, meaning the original timeline was not possible. Another inconsistency was Gavin told investigators he was molested at least 5 times, but was only able to recall 2 stories while testifying. The defense also thought it was strange that Starr claimed to have broken into Michael's room and seen Michael molest his brother, but told the defense that Michael had an alarm that goes off if anyone approaches his bedroom. Starr claimed to have seen Michael fully naked, but testified he thought the singer was completely white all over. Michael suffered from vitiligo, which causes patches on the skin. Michael was not fully white. Starr also told police he witnessed Jackson rubbing his penis on Gavin while Gavin was sleeping, but denied he ever made that claim during trial. In spring of 2003, Gavin told his principal that Michael had not molested him. I'm not sure why his principal was asking him stuff like that, but hey. The prosecution also claimed that Michael forced the family to shoot the video defending Michael to improve his public image before beginning his abuse of Gavin the next month.
You molested a boy.
Totally false. Before I would hurt a child, I would slit my wrists. I would never hurt a child. This is totally false. I was outraged. I could never do something like that.
This is a kid you knew?
Yes.
How would you characterize your relationship with this boy?
I've helped many, many, many children, thousands of children. Cancer kids, leukemia kids. This is one of many.
And there it is, all 10 counts, not guilty on all 10 counts. Michael Jackson will be walking out of this courtroom a free man, not guilty on the more serious charges, the lesser charges, administering alcohol, a misdemeanor, a slam dunk against the prosecution. Jeffrey Toobin, I think it's fair to say a lot of people are going to be very, very surprised.
A lot of people are going to be surprised, and you don't need a law degree to understand this.
After 36 hours of deliberation, the jury cleared Michael on all 10 felony counts and all 4 misdemeanors. After the trial, multiple members of the jury did interviews alone as well as in groups. It seems the jury did not believe the Arvizo family story, with some saying they believe the family used their history of acting to try and persuade the jury.
Interview.
Actually, that tape became very important. Most of us felt the same way, that we were looking for his demeanor. How was his body? Was he, moving around a lot? Was he nervous? Was he anxious? And he didn't seem to come across that of someone that had been molested. He just looked like someone that was just having fun, like being at a video arcade or something. He didn't seem nervous at all. And we felt that the police were trying to get him to say things that they wanted him to say so they could have that recorded.
This part of the video is based purely on my opinions after doing hours of research on this case. In my opinion, for some reason, the district attorney Tom Sneddon had a vendetta against Michael and saw the relationship Michael had with Gavin in the Living with Michael Jackson documentary as a great way to get a second chance at bringing down Michael. Honestly, I think the whole scenario was ridiculous. The entire basis of starting an investigation against Michael was the Bashir documentary. But during the trial, the prosecution made the outrageous claim that Michael began his abuse months after the documentary was filmed. I think the Arvizo family, in particular Janet Arvizo, saw this as an opportunity to come up on millions of dollars the same way the Chandler family had a decade prior. This is why it took Gavin 5 months to tell the prosecution he had been abused after previously telling them he had not been abused, as well as defending Michael on television. This was not the first time Janet had tried to take advantage of a celebrity using Gavin's sickness. She did the same to Michael's friend Chris Tucker and others. She also unsuccessfully sued JCPenney in 1999, claiming they attacked and molested her after they found her son Gavin shoplifting. I know that this kind of abuse can cause a victim to suppress memories and get some details wrong. Many people say that's why Gavin mixed up so many things during the trial. But what about his siblings and mother? None of the other siblings claimed to be abused, but both contradicted their stories multiple times in trial. They somehow tried to paint Michael Jackson as some type of crime boss that intoxicates children and hold their family against their will. Does this family look like they are being held against their will?
Laughs with them. He lets them win.
He wrestles with them.
He makes jokes with them.
Go on the rides together.
He shows them.
Watch movies together.
He shows them the basic foundation of what life is.
I think the Arvizo family thought their history of acting lessons would help them be able to convince a jury, and I am not the only person who believes this. Members of the jury thought the same thing.
Okay, first question. Second thoughts. Anybody here? No second thoughts. Did you ever, any one of you, raise your hand if you did any one of you ever think guilty?
That came up quite a bit. But after weighing the evidence and lack of, we realized that there wasn't enough evidence there to prosecute him.
Hopefully this video puts away any doubts that Michael Jackson abused Gavin Arvizo. In the final chapter, I will cover the Wade Robson and James Safechuck allegations, aka Leaving Neverland. Chapter 4, coming soon.
Jackson got to be one of them.
Can I have one too? She called it first and then you called it.
Oh, me.
Okay, here we go.
Different times where it'll just be me and Michael. Then there'll be other times where he has other friends over too. This is what, like what Brett said, it's just a slumber party. We just have a lot of fun.
I never forgot one moment of what Michael did to me. But I was psychologically and emotionally completely unable and unwilling to understand that it was.
So what are you alleging that he actually did?
From 7 years old until 14.
In 2009, Michael Jackson was preparing for what was supposed to be his big comeback to music with 50 sold-out shows in London. This is it. Michael had not performed or released any new music since he was accused of sexual misconduct with a child back in 2003. Unfortunately, Michael would never be able to complete his comeback. On June 25, 2009, the world lost one of his biggest icons and humanitarians. The King of Pop passed away.
Listen, right now, and it's very, very sad news, Jim Moret, and to all of our viewers, both the Los Angeles Times and CBS News are both now reporting that Michael Jackson has died.
After Michael's death, you would think the media had been his biggest cheerleaders during his lifetime, with the TV news and entertainment channels covering Michael's death non-stop for weeks. Michael's memorial service was watched by over 1 billion people around the world. After Michael's death, it seemed many in the public put allegations in the past. Michael's estate capitalized on this, releasing movies, multiple albums, and even video games to honor the late king. MTV even renamed its Video Vanguard Award back to the Michael Jackson Video Vanguard Award. For the first time in decades, majority of the conversation about Michael Jackson was on his art and not his personal life. All of this would change when HBO and Oprah Winfrey decided to give legitimacy to the James Safechuck and Wade Robson allegations by releasing the film Leaving Neverland, a decade after Michael passed. On June 26, 2009, the day after Michael's death, Wade Robson contacted ABC to work with them on choreography for a proposed Dancing with the Stars tribute to Michael. May 2011, Wade Robson approaches John Breaker, the co-executor of the Michael Jackson estate, asking to be hired as the director for the Cirque du Soleil Michael Jackson 1 Vegas promotion. Robson was turned down. If you have watched my previous chapters, you would have noticed Wade's name multiple times. Wade Robson was a long-term friend of not just Michael, but multiple members of the Jackson family. He defended Michael as a child as well as an adult, but in 2013, he sued the Jackson estate for a reported $1 billion, claiming Michael sexually abused him from the ages of 7 to 14. James Safechuck met Michael in 1988 during the filming of a Pepsi commercial that filmed during Michael's first solo tour, the Bad World Tour. James also defended Michael when questioned as a child during the 1993 investigation. In 2014, Safechuck joined Wade Robson's lawsuit claiming Michael molested him from the ages of 10 to 14 years old. In 2015, a judge rejected Robson's claim, believing no rational juror could believe it under California law. The lawsuit was dismissed as untimely. Safechuck's case was dismissed in 2017. Both cases were repealed and dismissed again in 2020 for Safechuck and in 2021 for Robson.
The night started changing. One of the ways I remember it starting is, Michael just sort of starting to touch my legs and touch my crotch over my pants. It progressed to him performing on me, him showing me how to perform on him.
Wade Robson is lying through his teeth, and he know it. And anybody can say it that know it, know Michael. Wade knows better. Wade just wants money. He knows better. He's from Australia, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, he knows he's lying.
Wade Robeson was the first of the two men to accuse Michael of using them as a child and is the more outspoken of the two alleged victims. According to Wade, he met Michael Jackson at 5 years old while Michael was touring Australia. He again met Michael when he was 7. By the age of 9, Wade moved to America and was signed to Michael's MJJ record label at 11. Robeson would go on to have a moderately successful career in Hollywood, writing and choreographing for megastars like Britney Spears and NSYNC, even landing his own MTV show in 2002 called The Wade Robeson Project. From my research, the last major job of Robeson's career in entertainment came when he choreographed the animated film Happy Feet 2. Months after finishing the movie, Robeson contacted the Jackson estate seeking a job, as he mentioned earlier. This was Robeson's last months active in Hollywood. In part 3 of this series, we discussed how Wade Robeson's testimony in the 2005 trial was the star testimony from the prosecution. Let me remind you what Wade said in his testimony. The defense asked, "Are you aware, as you sit here today, that there's been allegations that Mr. Jackson molested you?" Wade responded, "Yes." The defense asked, "Mr. Robeson, did Michael Jackson ever molest you at any time?" Wade responded, "Absolutely not." The defense asked, "Mr. Robeson, did Michael ever touch you in any sexual way?" Wade responded, "Never, no." The defense then questioned, "Has Mr. Jackson inappropriately touched any part of your body at any time?" Wade, "No." In 2013, almost 3 years since his last project and 2 years since he requested a job from the Jackson estate, Wade changed the story he gave in his testimony, now claiming he had been molested by Jackson for 7 years. After defending Michael for over 20 years, Robeson now claims he was able to understand what went on between he and Michael was an abusive relationship. Robeson claimed Michael first molested him at 7 while his family took a vacation to the Grand Canyon, leaving young Wade in the care of Jackson. According to Wade, Michael began molesting him immediately, gradually building up to sexual acts until allegedly performing orgies on each other. The only problem with this story is Wade's mother testified in sworn depositions in 1993 and in 2016, claiming that the entire family went on the trip to the Grand Canyon, including a 7-year-old Wade, and that Wade had never been left alone with Michael until 1993, when Wade was 13 years old.
The Grand Canyon.
I understand that you stayed then 2 different weekends at Neverland on that trip, is that right?
Yes.
And then in between you and your kids and your husband and your parents all went on tourist trip to the Grand Canyon?
Yes.
So you were there, is it 2 nights the first time?
Yes.
And then you came back after your whole family had gone away?
Yes.
And you spent another, 2 nights?
At Neverland, yes.
Robson himself testified as an adult that the first time he visited Neverland without his mother was in 1992 or 1993, which means he would not have been alone at Neverland with Michael Jackson in 1990, as Leaving Neverland claimed.
Wade would continue to have a relationship with the Jackson family for the next decade plus, visiting Neverland on multiple occasions into adulthood. Robeson even had a serious 7-year relationship with the daughter of Michael's older brother, Jackie.
It really is. It's very, very sad, but I don't want to go into detail with it, but Wade was very close with members in the family, and he very close with several members in the family, and I'm surprised. I'm very surprised. Very surprised. Everybody
Didn't he date some of your nieces?
Yeah, he did, 2 of them.
Michael and Wade had been friends for so long that Robeson testified on Michael's behalf while Michael was on trial for allegations. Robeson has given multiple reasons on why he testified on Michael's behalf in 2005. initially saying it was because he never was abused, then amending his statement saying he knew Michael's children and didn't want them to lose their father. Robeson would again change his reasoning, saying he did not want to testify but received a subpoena to do so, only testifying in favor of Jackson because he was not ready to tell his story. Michael's defense team said Wade was one of their strongest witnesses and that he volunteered his services to Michael, claiming they never sent out any subpoenas to any witnesses. Robeson to this day has yet to show proof of a subpoena. He claimed he kept years of memorabilia from Jackson, but not the subpoena. Seems fishy to me, as well as the defense investigator for Michael, Scott Ross.
I would love for Wade Robson to show me the subpoena he never got.
We will return to the Robeson allegations when we cover the Living with Michael Jackson documentary.
I become immune in a way too. I'm very strong. I have rhinoceros skin, and but at the same time I'm human, you know. So anything can hurt like that, you know. But I'm very strong, and I just don't like people hearing about such false information.
James Safechuck had a completely different relationship with Michael than Wade. Safechuck claims he wasn't a fan of Michael before they met when he was 10 years old in 1998 while filming a Pepsi commercial. Safechuck would form a friendship with Michael for the next 4 years. Safechuck would defend Michael in 1993 when questioned had he ever been molested by Michael. Unlike Wade, James did not have a relationship with Michael's family and was not asked to testify in 2005. In 2014, Safechuck decided to join Robeson's lawsuit, now claiming that Michael had molested him from the ages of 10 to 14 years old. Safechuck would claim he realized he had been abused after seeing Wade tell his story on TV. Similar to Robeson, Safechuck claimed Michael groomed him before making the boy believe they were in a relationship together. Safechuck claimed Michael showered him with expensive jewelry and even staged a mock wedding for the two. James Safechuck has only done interviews as a duo with Wade and doesn't have solo interviews. Unlike Wade, James did not testify in court or participate in any sworn depositions, so we have far less information to work with. The only evidence we can disprove from Safechuck came from the Leaving Neverland documentary, but as we will go over, just like the two men's public story, the documentary is full of inconsistencies. Four years after Wade first went public with his accusations, he met with director Dan Reed to tell his alleged story. Reed met with Safechuck the next week, as well as prosecutors and detectives from Michael's 1993 and 2005 investigations. Reed decided not to use any film from the investigators or detectives. The documentary also did not reach out to any members of the Jackson family or anyone close to Michael. Reed claims after his interview with Robeson and Safechuck, he corroborated their stories. As we will cover, he either did a terrible job or he is flat out lying. Leaving Neverland finally released through HBO in the United States and Channel 4 in the United Kingdom as a two-part series. The series was an overwhelming success, bringing in almost 10 million viewers combined in the UK between its two broadcasts. In the US, the documentary drew a combined audience of 2 million viewers. Following the American viewing, close personal friend of Harvey Weinstein, Oprah Winfrey, interviewed Wade Robson and James Safechuck. All members of the Jackson family called both Robson and Safechuck liars, saying they were after money. They also condemned the documentary for not reaching out to any members of the family for a statement.
If Neverland was so horrifying for him, and why would you keep going back?
After the release of the film, many of Michael's friends came out to support him, saying they had never been abused by Michael and that nothing sexual had ever happened, including child actor Corey Feldman, singer Aaron Carter, Brett Barnes, and Macaulay Culkin. Corey Feldman later said he could no longer defend Michael.
I would imagine you believe that children are being abused by pedophiles in Hollywood.
Absolutely.
So why are you sitting down talking to me? Why aren't you sitting down with the police right now?
I've told the police. In fact, if anybody wants to go back to 1993 when I was interviewed by the Santa Barbara Police Department, I sat there and I gave them the names. They're on record. They have all of this information, but they were scanning Michael Jackson. All they cared about was trying to find something on Michael Jackson.
Who you said, by the way, did not abuse you.
Who Michael was innocent, and that was what the interview was about with the police in 1993. I told them he is not that guy, and they said, well, maybe you just don't understand your friend. And I said, no, I know the difference between pedophiles and somebody who's not a pedophile because I've been molested. Time for me, and this is a very emotional process for any survivor of abuse, anybody that's been through these things, to, first of all, I ask people to put themselves in my shoes. You know, you're a kid who has endured sexual abuse, and during those times, I'm looking to somebody like Michael Jackson as a friend, as a big brother figure, and he was that person to me. However, as you're friends with this guy, all of a sudden you start to hear more and more accusations being thrown around by various people, and it comes to a point where, as an advocate for victims, as an advocate for changing the statutes of limitations to make sure that victims' voices are heard, it becomes impossible for me to stay virtuous and not at least consider what's being said and not listen to what the victims are saying. This is very important. We must give them their voice. We must allow them to speak. And therefore, we also must consider all sides of this, even as uncomfortable as that may be.
Brett Barnes and Macaulay Culkin's defense of Michael were problematic for the film and Michael's accusers because the documentary strongly implied that Michael replaced Safechuck and Robeson with Barnes and Culkin. Robeson and Safechuck both claimed Michael dropped them because they were too old. The only problem with this is not only did Macaulay Culkin and Brett Barnes defend Michael, they were both older than Robeson. Macaulay was older than Robeson by 2 years.
You know, a family friend.
What happened at the house? That's what all these things are.
You know, that's what's so weird. You know,
what did happen?
Nothing happened. You know, I mean, nothing really. I mean, we played video games. You know, we played it at an amusement park. Well, the thing is with that whole thing is that, you know, they go, oh, you slept in the same bedroom as him. It's like, I don't think you understand. Michael Jackson's bedroom is 2 stories, and it has like 3 bathrooms and this and that. So when I slept in his bedroom, yeah, but you have to understand the whole scenario. And the thing is with Michael is that he's not very good at explaining himself, and he never really has been, because he's not a very social person. I mean, you're talking about someone who's been sheltered and sheltering himself also for the last like 30 years, or, you know, and so he's not very good at communicating to people and not very good at conveying what he's actually trying to say to you. And so when he says something like that, you know, people, you know, he doesn't quite understand why people react the way that they do.
After the release of the documentary, Brett Barnes changed his profile picture to a picture of him with Michael, as well as tweeting, "Not only do we have to deal with these lies, but we also got to deal with people perpetuating these lies, by choice or not, makes it even worse." If this was the only case of alternative facts in the film, maybe it could be excused, but the documentary is full of proven lies. Some lies that were easily disproven were them claiming Michael kept his victims apart, even though there are pictures of Safechuck and Robeson together as children with Michael. Safechuck claims he was at the 1989 Grammy Awards, even though Michael did not attend that event, as well as Wade never receiving a subpoena, according to Jackson's attorneys. One of the most intriguing parts of the film to me were all the places James Safechuck claimed he was molested that were proven couldn't have happened. Not only did Safechuck claim he was molested at the 1989 Grammy Awards that Michael didn't attend, he also claimed to be molested in the iconic Neverland train station. Safechuck claimed he was molested from 1989 to 1992. The train station did not begin construction until 1993 and was not finished until 1994, 2 years after Safechuck claims his abuse was passed on to another boy. Safechuck also claimed to be molested on small beds in the Neverland Castle, but 3 different staff members as well as ride developers said there were no beds in the castle, with the developers saying there was a little TV in the corner and nothing else. Safechuck also claims Michael molested him in the Neverland movie theater when his mother almost catching them, claiming the only reason she did it was the doors were locked from the inside. Alan Scanlon, one of the people who built the theater, claimed locking the doors was only possible from the outside and that Michael didn't even have access to the key, which makes sense. I doubt Michael was doing maintenance at Neverland. The documentary is full of proven lies and straight up doctored statements.
You like a ton of bricks. We will land on you like a hammer. If you do anything to besmirch this man's reputation, anything to intrude on his privacy in any way that's actionable, we will unleash a legal torrent like you've never seen.
As you can see, the Leaving Neverland documentary is full of lies. Both James Safechuck and Wade Robson told proven lies in the documentary. Director Dan Reed obviously did not corroborate their stories like he claimed. The documentary has little to no credibility. One thing I would like to point out is how different Robson's and Safechuck's allegations were compared to Gavin Arvizo's. Gavin and his family portrayed Michael as a mastermind that intoxicates children and holds their family hostage at Neverland. All throughout the film and interviews, both Robson and Safechuck claimed Michael was one of the kindest people they had ever met, but he also abused them. They never alleged Michael gave them any alcohol as children or forced them and their family to stay at Neverland like the Arvizo family. Honestly, it doesn't even seem like these two even tried to get their story straight. And in a post-Me Too world, they did not have to. I completely support the Me Too movement and completely acknowledge Hollywood is full of creeps and freaks. But just like anything else, it has negatives. A con to the movement has been people not being able to question a victim's story without being labeled victim blaming. I believe this might be why Corey Feldman said he could no longer defending Michael, even though he said Michael never abused him. I think Dan Reed, James Safechuck, and of course Wade Robson took advantage of the Me Too movement and Jackson's celebrity to try and make a buck. It's a shame some of the same people that befriended Michael while he was alive turned their back on him after he died. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe for more content on Michael Jackson and the Jackson family.
Be specific as I can. Did you ever, as this young boy said you did you ever sexually engage, fondle, have sexual contact with this child or any other child?
Never, ever. I could never harm a child or anyone. It's not in my heart. It's not who I am. And it's not what I'm not even interested in that.